Today, we are blessed to have with us three speakers. Dr. Lakeisha is going to be speaking, Dr. Beverly, and also Karine Kamara. And I just want to say a little bit about the intention that I'm setting for this summit. The Midlife Awakening Summit was born out of, not out of trends or fear or the idea that something is wrong with us. It was created because to many women, especially women of color, we have an issue around navigating those profound things that happen to us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And the reason why is that many times we just don't have clear information, support, or spaces that truly see us or hear us. And so this season of life brings a lot of questions with our energy, our emotions, our purpose. And yet, so often the conversations stop at symptoms. Or worse, they dismiss what we're feeling altogether. This summit is different. I really wanted this summit to be a whole woman conversation, mind, body, and spirit, science and soul. I wanted to talk about the practical tools and the lived wisdom that you can apply to your daily lives. And the intention of us coming together is not to fix you, but to help you understand yourself more deeply, trust your body again, and to feel more supported as you move through this powerful transition with clarity instead of confusion. Over the next few days, you'll hear from voices who are not just here to rush you or shame you or push you to power through, none of that, but to offer some valued insight, compassion, and tools, okay, that you can actually use in your real life. My hope is that you leave the summit feeling informed, affirmed, and reminded that this chapter is not an ending, it's an initiation, it's a recalibration, and it is ongoing. I really want to dispel the myth that menopause ends at 55. It doesn't, as our speakers will share with you. It's not so much about the symptoms, but the other things that happen. It's part of our life transition and life transformation. And I have to tell you that I've had more fun, have lived more of a fulfilled life at this stage of my life than at any other stage of my life. And I'm 68 years old, looking forward to 69, 70, and beyond, as I hope all of you are too. Our speakers range in age from 44 to 77, and their wisdom represents over 200 years of experience in working with women who look just like us. And let me say one more thing about the people of color. I have a large following on the internet. It's very diverse. And I would say at one time, about 5 years ago, it was 60% European, 40% women of color. That has changed over the last 2 or 3 years intentionally because I began to feel a tug at my heart and at my soul that the knowledge I have really does need to be shared specifically, intrinsically with women of color, women who look like me. Let's get ready for our first speaker. I love this woman. I told her that if she wasn't a doctor, she could be an actress. Her reels on Instagram and TikTok are so funny, but she is extremely knowledgeable. Dr. Lakeisha Webb McMillan is an integrative OBGYN, hormone specialist, and Amazon best-selling author who is dedicated to helping women understand what's really happening in their bodies during menopause and perimenopause without dismissal or misinformation. She is the creator of Hormone Hottie Bootcamp and the Other PMS University. She has educational programs designed to help women and the practitioners who serve them. She decodes hormonal changes with clarity and confidence, and many of you may also recognize her from her best-selling book, The Other PMS, or from national media appearances, including the Oprah Winfrey Network. What makes Dr. McMillan's work so impactful is her ability to validate women's symptoms while translating complex hormone science into something practical, empowering insight, helping women ask better questions and feel supported in their care. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lakeisha McMillan. She's going to be talking about Menopause 101, busting myths, breaking through barriers, and gliding into the pause. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close my mic out and close my video. Hey, Dr. Lakeisha.
Hi, Lettuce. Oh my gosh. I am so excited to be here with you all today. Thank you for entrusting me to be the kickoff speaker for Midlife Awakening Summit. I am so excited to be here with you all today. I'm going to start sharing my screen with you all. Give me just a second to get this all together so that you can see what I am talking about. This really is just to keep me on task, y'all, because my beautiful ADHD brain will start going off on side streets and all kinds of things. Now, I am a teacher by background. I'm from the South, so I have a little bit of preacher in me as well. I know you have your cameras off. I would like if you know how to do your thumbs up or applause. If something resonates with you, please let me know because I love that energy to be able to say, yes, I hear you. Oh my goodness. Yes, I see, Linus, you've gotten that in. I see it. I see it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But before we get started, I want to humbly extend a heartfelt apology to every woman that is here in this room, to every woman who could not be here today, to every woman that has already have bought your ticket and you're going to watch this on the replay, to every woman who has come before us, I apologize. I want to apologize to every woman whose voices have been silenced, whose symptoms have been dismissed, whose truth has been denied. I apologize. I apologize for the damage that has been done through the interpretation of the data that has come out of the Women's Health Initiative. I want to apologize for the fear, the confusion, and the loss of trust in your doctors and in your bodies. You deserve better. And I feel that I have the right to give this apology because I was there July 2002 in Morning Report. I am a brand new doctor and sitting there in my OBGYN residency program, Morning Report, and our residency program director runs into Morning Report waving this paper saying that she had been FedEx the results to the Women's Health Initiative early and they've stopped the study early. And we're like, wait, what does this mean? What are you talking about? So let's talk about this. So in 2002, I'm sitting in Morning Report, and now we're having this discussion around a study that actually started in 1996, where they had been given funding through the Public Health Services Act of 1944. They've been adding amendments and funding, and they came up with a structure for a study that was the largest health study to date for women. There were 40 clinics that were funded to be part of this study. There were 166,000 women enrolled into this study. And what happened is they had three tiers to the study, or three arms to the study, is what we'll say. One of the arms was saying, hey, and what they were looking at, let's go back to see what they were looking at. They were looking at what caused women to have morbidity and mortality. We use those big words, but what affected a woman's longevity and her quality of life. And there were three things that came up. Cardiovascular disease was number one, and it's still number one today. Number two is osteoporosis, and number three is breast cancer. Yes, number three is breast cancer. We know about number three because I joke, I kind of tongue in cheek say that they have a great PR department, but it's true. They have learned to get that information out there. And so women feel that, oh, breast cancer is really what I need to be aware of. It's cardiovascular disease, it's having a heart attack or a stroke. The morbidity of it, dying from it, cutting your longevity, or the quality of your life being affected by it. And so they said, hey, If we can replenish women's hormones, because maybe it's their hormones that protect them when they're younger, if we could then look at lifestyle changes, so let's look at getting them moving and making sure that they're eating the right things. That was another tier to the study. Or if we could even give them supplementation like vitamin D, because we know vitamin D, if we give them that, and that can help with their bone structure. What happened is that it appeared that when they looked at the data, that there were some bad outcomes that were happening before the study was ready to close. And so it appeared as if there was an increased risk in breast cancer, and it looked like there was an increased risk in strokes and blood clots. And so we had epidemiologists and we had statisticians to go out on the press circuit. The junket is what I call it, the press junket. You know, when a movie comes out and the actors go around and they make you excited about what's coming out. We didn't have people in the medical industry to go out on the press circuit. We had statisticians, epidemiologists that spoke in language that was not necessarily transferable to everyday life. And so what happened is there was this scare. There was a scare in the community. There was a scare in women's health. There was a scare with the doctors. And so what happened? So overnight, I am in morning report and I'm told we got to stop it. We have to stop all the hormone therapy. We have to stop that. Women started coming into the clinic, take me off of it. It's going to cause cancer and it's going to cause me to have a stroke and a heart attack. What we did not know what we did not explain was that the average age of women in that study was 63 years old and older. So we weren't even looking at women in perimenopause or early menopause. And those women had known prior cardiovascular events. So they'd had maybe a heart attack or a stroke. This is not your average population that's coming in. And the biggest thing is that we were looking at synthetic hormones, hormones that had been co opted from horses' urine. We were looking at Primpro and Premarin. This has conjugated equine estrogen in it. And we were looking at synthetic progestins. These are compounds that can go in and they can act like what our body makes, but then when our body breaks it down, it doesn't really know what to do with it. And so now you are left with women for generations without support. So what has happened to bring us down to to where we are now? We went back and looked at the data, one, and saw that there was not necessarily an increased risk in breast cancer over your baseline of being a woman. And it was associated when you combined that estrogen with the progestin, the synthetic progesterone. There also looked to be that there was a protection when you had estrogen on board. And so now we need to rewrite the story because we have something called bioidentical hormones. And we're going to talk about that as we go along today as we keep moving forward. So, now that I've set the stage, let's talk about where we're going today. I want to go through 5 of the biggest myths that keep women stuck when it comes to menopause and perimenopause. And along the way, I'm going to show you how to break all of these down, how to reclaim your health, and how to walk out of this summit with real solutions that you can use. So, we're going to talk about menopause more than just an age. We're going to defy hormone or demystify hormone testing, talk about vitamins and cofactors. It's more than just expensive urine. We're going to talk about that gut hormone connection and how to have that hard conversation with your doctor about hormone therapy. So let's talk about myth number 1. Menopause is all about the age. If I had $1 for inflation, y'all, for every person that came to me that said, my doctor told me I was too young to be in perimenopause, I would not be here. Linus would not be able to contact me because I'd be on a beach somewhere sipping a Mai Tai or something because I would have retired just off of that alone. So, what I want you to understand is that it is not about an age, it is about your hormone levels. And I love these two graphs. I show these graphs everywhere I go. So the graph on your left side, if you're facing the screen, the graph on your left is showing you what happens in our reproductive phase of life, is what I call it. So think of your period in terms of grass growing. Estrogen is the hormone that comes along that makes the grass grow tall, waiting for that fertilized egg to come and plop on the grass. Progesterone's in charge of the lawnmower system. So progesterone waits around, it waits and says, "Up, mid-cycle, there was an egg that popped out. Was it fertilized? Yes, it was. Okay, guys, we're not going to mow the lawn this cycle because there was a fertilized egg. So hold up, we're not going to mow the lawn." If they gets the memo that there was no egg fertilized, up, no egg was fertilized. Okay, guys, we're going to mow the lawn, but in 2 weeks we're going to mow the lawn. So we got to wait around for 2 weeks. Progesterone should wait around. You see that it stays up. Progesterone is the green line. It should stay up, and then 2 weeks later it'll fall. It lets the lawnmowers out. Depending on how high the grass was, will be how heavy the flow. Okay? Now, this is what's happening when our hormone levels start dropping around our mid to late 30s. And how does this appear? It can show up as our cycles being irregular. It can show up in our cycles either starting to get heavier, closer together, further apart. It can even show up that I can't get to sleep like I used to. And why is that? Because your progesterone, this nice little purple line, is starting to fall. It's not staying up as high as it used to, not hanging around for that 2 weeks and saying, okay, guys, hold on, we're going to mow the lawn in 2 weeks. So I want you to understand that it's more about what's happening with your hormone levels and not just an age thing. So, what are some of these signs, like I just talked about? Sometimes there's changes in your cycle, trouble sleeping, mood, anxiety. And the reason for that, y'all, is because progesterone, one of those hormones that's doing the dip-de-doos and not staying as high as it used to, is actually in charge. It's actually known as nature's Xanax. Progesterone helps our shoulders to relax. You can start seeing weight changes. How many of y'all are like, wait a minute? I woke up this morning, I went to put on something to go get dressed for work or something, and it doesn't fit anymore. It's wait a minute. Hold up. I missed the memo. My body changed overnight. Hello. Yes, I see that thumbs up. You can even start having hot flashes. This is the one that I just chuckle with because when my perimenopausal women come in and they're just like, I'm still having a period, I'm not in menopause yet, and I'm not having hot flashes, but at night I do seem to get warm. I said, yes, I understand it. So temperature dysregulation is something that starts happening because progesterone and estrogen along with testosterone, are also involved with our temperature regulation. So these are some of those things that can start happening. So it's not about age, it's about awareness. Menopause isn't about hitting a magic number, right? It's about being aware of what's happening in your body and not dismissing anything. You live in your body every single day. You come talk to someone like me. My practice is a wonderful boutique practice. So you talk to me more than you talk to your regular doctors. But you go talk to your regular doctors maybe once a quarter, once a year, twice a year, or multiple times if you're having a problem. You live in this body. When you know something is off or different, you need to be that advocate and say, something is different. I really need somebody to help me figure this out. Okay? Let's talk about myth number 2. This is the one where I say women come into my office and they say, I went to my doctor and I asked them to run the test for menopause or run the perimenopause test or just that one test. You feel like it's a test. It's not just one test. There are various different tests that a doctor or practitioner use to pull together to get the picture of you, okay? So let's talk about this. So there's urine testing, there's blood testing or serum testing. This is the most common one. People are like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get my blood drawn. Okay. If I go get my blood drawn, they can figure this out, right? There's also saliva testing. Now, I love to combine a little bit of all of these. I stack them on top. I do functional medicine testing. So I use the Dutch test, which is the dried test, it's dried urine test for comprehensive hormone testing. This goes a little deeper than just what's looking at the blood, what's hanging out in the bloodstream. So when you go get your blood drawn, that tells me at a snapshot in time what was in the bloodstream and available for your cells to use right then. And that's when doctors, and that's what most doctors are looking at, what's in the bloodstream, what is available. And they're looking at what's in the range, and they're using the reference range that's given from the lab. And there's a whole conversation about optimal ranges. That's a whole nother conversation. And they're then saying to you, say it with me, your tests are normal, right? But then I can go in and say, hey, no, are if what is available in the bloodstream, is it actually getting into the cell and being utilized by the cell because of what's being spit out on the other side? So that's why I love to layer on this testing. Saliva testing is a little tricky because saliva testing only looks at what is free. So a lot of what's in our body, especially with hormones, they have a chaperone that they walk around with. And so in the saliva, you only get what is not with a chaperone. And a lot of the levels in saliva change throughout the day. And there are times where I want to see what it is doing throughout the day. So this is what I'm saying. There are so many different ways to look at you. So you can go to your provider and say, okay, what type of testing do you use? Do you only do blood or serum testing? Do you only do blood draws? Do you do urine testing? Do you do saliva testing? Do you do a combination of both? Because a lot of practitioners will come to a conclusion of what they like to do because they know what information they're looking for so they can interpret what's happening for you so then they can build a plan that is right for you, okay? Like I said, in reality, our hormones actually fluctuate daily. So there's no single marker that you can look at and say, haha, you're in perimenopause or you're in menopause. And a lot of doctors will do that. They'll say, "Oh, I'll do this one test." A lot of you may even hear about it. I'll do the FSH test. FSH test. That's follicle stimulating hormone test. And if it's high, then that tells me that your ovaries are probably not working anymore. And so, yeah, you're in menopause. But that can even fluctuate, okay? And that fluctuates in perimenopause. So I tend to look at you not only through the lens of, like I said, multiple testing, but give me your story. Tell me what's really going on with you. And so, what also helps is I need to know the symptoms that you're having. Cycle tracking, lifestyle, labs are just one piece of the puzzle. So it's about looking at the whole story, right? It's about putting all this together so that I can see what's right for you. Myth number 3, vitamins only make expensive urine. This is where I'm just like, no, it does not. We need certain vitamins and minerals. They are so important. Okay, y'all know doctors love big words because it makes us feel that the investment in our education was worth it, right? So we're going to talk about this big thing called detoxification. Basically, it's just how your body metabolizes the hormones. And they do that by utilizing certain vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. Okay. So if we look at this, there are 3 different phases that usually happen when you're breaking down your hormones. There's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Most phase 1 and phase 2 happen in the liver, and you need certain vitamins and minerals like magnesium. There's information out there that shows us that magnesium is involved in over 400 reactions in the body. You are one big reaction happening all day long. in various different aspects of your body, your brain, your heart, your lungs, your tissue, all over the place. And you need these little cofactors to help. I remember sitting in biochemistry class in my first year in medical school, and our professor would put this long equation on the board and tell us about how your body takes this molecule and makes energy. He would say, and he says, and there are these other little things that we're noticing when we're doing reactions that actually help give a synergy to this reaction happening at its optimal. We're not quite sure what they are yet, but we're working on it. Y'all, they found out those are minerals, vitamins, phytonutrients. Okay. So, yes, I get people that will say, what if I just eat a healthy diet? What if I just make sure I'm eating the right foods? Yes, and yes. And we also need to acknowledge that the standard American diet, which, if we look at that acronym, it is sad and it does not have the quality that it used to have. My grandmother had a beautiful garden when I was growing up. She would till that garden and she would harvest her crops, and she would tell me about rotating her crops because you can't plant the same thing in the same spot because of what it gets from the ground, those vitamins, those nutrients. And so you have to rotate those crops. That's not necessarily being done now. So you may have to do some supplementation. And so people will say, oh, is that really good? Are the supplements even good? That's a whole conversation around that. And that's why I do go through reputable companies that will do third-party testing, that will make sure what they say on the bottle is actually in the bottle. Okay. So looking here, there are different phases that happen. Phase 1 and phase 2 mainly happen in the liver. Phase 3 mainly happens in the gut. So you have to make sure you have the right microbiome available. And we're going to talk about that too. So in reality, it's not necessarily just about having a vitamin. The quality and the absorption matters, right? And like I said, not all supplements are equal. So you have to make sure that you have them from reputable companies. I just saw something the other day that was reiterating about a story where the FDA went into CVS and Walmart and randomly picked supplements off of their shelves. And they went and they analyzed it. And for the majority of them, they really didn't have what was supposed to be in them. There were fillers. It wasn't enough of it. It didn't have the 200 milligrams in each capsule or per serving. And so when I have patients that come to me and I'm recommending supplements, I use a company that I know does third party that only allows companies that use third party testing to be on their platform. They actually only provide supplements that what we call medical grade supplements, okay? So it's the quality of the supplements and not just, oh, let me just get some supplements on board. And like I said, nutrition is key. So making sure that you do eat the right foods, that you have that great diet is also very important. So it's not about expensive urine. Let's retire that joke, okay? Minerals are not magic bullets, but when used correctly, they are powerful allies to our hormone health because you need these vitamins and minerals to actually process the hormones so that the goal isn't just having expensive urine, but having effective personalized support. Now, let's talk about myth number 4. The gut has nothing to do with hormones. This is another big myth that I hear, that the gut is only for digestion. So, doc, why do you even look at the gut when you do your initial testing? Remember what I just said? Phase 3 detoxification happens in the gut. If I'm going to put something in the system, I need to make sure that the system can handle it. Okay. So it's not just making sure it's not just for eating, but it's also making sure that what we're eating is absorbed and that it can be converted properly so that you can actually feel your best. So let's talk about the good and the bad bacteria. There are what we are now discovering, and actually, not, I should even say it this way. What we are now giving credence to and being respectful of is that we have something called a microbiome. There are bacteria that inhabit our person from our mouth all the way to the exit, the anus. And there are certain bacteria at each area. So your oral cavity, your oral pharynx, right back here where the throat and the oral cavity meet, a little down lower, even in the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestines, the large intestines, and like I said, the exit, the anus. And so every area has a microbiome. And they're even considering calling it its own organ system. And so we have good and bad bacteria. And what happens is, so there's a name that a lot of us know it as the probiotics. Probiotics. Oh, I need to get probiotics. So probiotics is another name for good bacteria or just the bacteria. The prebiotic is what is fed to the bacteria. That's their food. And then there's a postbiotic, what the bacteria actually poop out. So they do the same thing we do. They eat and then they poop out something. And our system uses that end product and helps with our detoxification and the health of our gut, for instance. So when we eat food, and just think of it as fuel, the body's going to look at it and say, okay, I can break this down to a carbohydrate. I can break that down to an amino acid because that was a protein, and the end product of a protein is an amino acid. I can break this down to a fat. I can break this down. Oh, there's some vitamins over here. Oh, there's some phytonutrients. Or, oh, there's some minerals over here. Okay, I know exactly what to do with all of these. And the bacteria looks at it and says, oh, I like this. I can actually break down this carbohydrate even a little bit more. I'll eat that. And then what I then excrete is a small chain fatty acid like butyrate or butyric acid, which is actually something our gut loves and makes our gut healthy, and also is also part of the process where it actually helps to make sure estrogen is detoxified in that third phase. You see how all this is nicely together and it all comes together? So, making sure you have the right bacteria is so super important. And so, when the gut is off, there can be some symptoms. Let's talk about what we can see when the gut is not healthy: constipation or irregularity, bloating or food sensitivities. How many of y'all are like, wait a minute? I turned 40 and now I can't eat a single doggone thing. I eat this and I get bloated. I eat that and I have the runs. I eat this and I don't feel good. I feel nauseous, or I can't. Like, all of a sudden, it seems like you're allergic or sensitive to everything, right? It can even make your hot flashes worse. It can make your brain fog worse. Hello, can I get a witness in this place? Hello, I'm Dr. Lakeisha, and my brain fog. It can make your mood swings worse. It can make it difficult to lose weight. So it's not all your fault. And this is where I want us to change the narrative from back when it was in the 1600s and the 1700s, and saying that menopause was a moral failure on women's parts. It was not. It is a change in our physiology, and we just need new tools because we have a new body. Okay? We have a new body. So, why does this matter? Because when your gut is healthy, your hormones can get balanced. So, I say, think of it this way. I have one of my mentors, Dr. Carrie Jones. She's amazing hormone doctor too. And she uses an analogy, a bathtub analogy, and she's given me permission to use it. It's like putting water in the bathtub. So when you put water in a bathtub and you want to stop it up and the water comes up into the bathtub, think of the water as, let's say, estrogen. Let's use estrogen because it's just easier to use that one. So the water is estrogen. You want the right type of estrogen. Okay. That's why we don't use the synthetic estrogens anymore. And that's why your body is like, oh, wait, these bioidenticals, I know what this is. And we're going to look at and see why the body goes, oh, I know what this looks like. And then the bathtub is the liver. Let's think of that as the liver. And the liver goes, oh, I need to change the shape of this water just a little bit. I need to change the molecular shape once. I need to change it again twice. So that's phase one. Phase two, detoxification. And then you're going to pull the plug and let the water go down the drain. The drain is the piping system. That's your gut. And if the gut is junky, if the pipes are gunky and messed up, you can't drain the water. You can't do phase three detoxification. You see how this works? So you got to make sure the pipes are clean. That's why I usually work on somebody's gut health while I'm working on getting them hormones. Sometimes I even do the gut first so the pipes are clean so that when I put water in the bathtub, they can drain and they can feel that difference and they can feel good and feel like themselves again. Okay? So it's not just what you eat, it's what your gut can do with what you eat because of this wonderful symbiotic relationship to the microbiome and helping us to feel our best. And this is where that metabolism comes in, okay? So when we don't have the right bacteria, we actually can put ourselves into or have a component of metabolic syndrome, which means we're not metabolizing our sugars right. We're now in a state of chronic inflammation, and that's a whole nother conversation. So, myth number 5, talking to my doctor about hormone therapy is hopeless. It's just hopeless because these doctors don't know what they talking about out here. And some of them don't even, they look at me like, welcome to the club. This is just how it is. You're how old again, ma'am? Okay, this is just the way it is. And I want to stop that myth. You have to, so one of the things is that if you think about it, I just told you I was a brand new doctor. I had just gotten my MD in 2001 and I started residency in 2002. So I'm like, "Ooh, I get to wear my long coat in the hospital cuz that meant something. The short coat was for the students, the long coat was for the intern, I mean for the residents and the attending. So I was a doctor. That meant I had my full MD. Think about that. That is over 20 years ago. These are the same doctors you're going to. They got the same memo I got. Hormones are bad. And if they did not have the ability to do what I've done, which is take a step back because life actually gave me a 1-2 punch and said, physician, heal thyself. They are running, I seeing like 60 patients a day because that's how many patients I was seeing a day, given 15 minutes to see that patient, develop a rapport, to come up with a plan, and then to send you on your way. So we do have to give some of them a little bit of grace. But then you can find those like me that said, I need to step out of that rat race. I need to take a step back because life has hit me and I'm sitting on labor and delivery, y'all, one night after losing my father and my grandmother 10 months apart, and my blood pressure is 160 over 110. And I'm like, Lord, I need an exit strategy. And then I was able to take a step back, come home, because by this time we had 2 kids. And I was like, I want to be the person to raise them. I don't necessarily want to get a nanny. I want to be the person that raises them. And y'all, I wanted to come home and be with my husband. He's cute and I like him. He's a good person. He's good people's. And at this point, through grief and all the other things that I was dealing with, I didn't want him to touch me. I was fatigued. I was barely getting out of bed during the mornings. I could put on the smile, see my patients, but I would be dragging home. And so I took a step back and I tested my own hormones. And y'all, I had no measurable testosterone and my adrenals were in the toilet. And I remember calling my husband and going, honey, I know what's wrong with me and I'm so excited. And he was like, good for you. Okay. And so I have actually been on hormone therapy for over 10 years now that I think about it. I started when I was, oh my, I've been on hormone therapy for probably going on 12 years now. And it has made a difference. So look for someone like myself that says, hey, I've done some of the extra work. I've done the extra assignment. I've done the hormone. I've done not the I've done the extra homework. And so I can have a conversation with you. There are doctors out there that says, "Hey, I'm not well versed in this, but if you can find somebody, I'm all for it for you. I'm there to support you." Understand that when we were in residency, we got about 10% of our full time in residency focused on perimenopause and menopause. We didn't even have the term perimenopause. We had premenopause was a term that was starting to float around, and we had birth control pills. Oh, she's talking about her period is off. Give her some birth control pills because I'll at least give her some, help her to get a cycle every 30 days, 28 days, and she won't be bleeding through. Or after when I was out of residency, oh, what about an ablation if she's having really bad bleeding, which I still think could be an option for some people. But remember, you deserve to be heard. So, this is what I want to say. I'm looking at our time and I know that I need to round this corner. So, just remember all hormones are not equal. And this is what I'm saying. So, birth control pills are synthetic hormones. What does that mean? There are biological or bioidentical hormones. There's biological, this says human hormone, and this is synthetic. So these are the actual names of some of those things that are out there. And this is just using progesterone as an example. If you look at this chemical structure of what we make, look at the bioidentical one. It is exactly the same. Provera, which is a synthetic progesterone, which is a synthetic progestin, it does not look the same, but it looks close enough. It's just if I got a key that wasn't quite the key to this lock, but I could put it in the lock and I could jiggle it a little bit and I could get that lock open. So this progesterone can sit on the progesterone receptor and get it to open. But when the body breaks this down into what we call its metabolites, it doesn't know what to do with the metabolites. And that is the problem. The metabolites are what can cause inflammation and can cause the body to go, I don't know what this is. Let's call the immune system in because we don't know what this is. Come on, guys, come take care of this. Do what you do when there's a cold, a virus, a bacteria, a fungus, or a parasite that we need to get out of the system. Do the same thing over here. Whereas when it's a bioidentical hormone, the body goes, oh, I know what to do with this. It sits on the receptor, it opens it up just like the human one would or the biological one. It breaks it down just like it's supposed to. And that's what bioidentical hormones do. That is it. So, what are the different ways to take BHRT, or we call it bioidentical hormone therapy? Some people are just calling it hormone therapy now because most of what's out there is bioidentical. The synthetic ones were Premarin and Prempro, and a lot of people are not using that anymore. You can do pellet therapy. I know there are discussions around pellets. There's patches. I know there's a shortage of patches coming up because the FDA removed that black box warning, which we love, okay? Because anything that had estrogen in it, be it bioidentical or synthetic, got this warning that said could cause cancer and could cause strokes. And now we know that information is not right because they actually re-looked at the data. And in 2022, they came out with a paper that said, hey guys, this is what the data actually meant. Or there's also what we call compounded creams. They're compounding pharmacies. They are legitimate. They have licensed and boarded pharmacists in them. What they do is they make your prescriptions, they make them at when you actually put in the prescription. So they are customized. And this is one of the therapies that I am on personally. I've been using creams for a while. I did do pellet therapy myself, to be totally transparent. I just metabolized it too fast. So when I metabolized it, I got more of the side effects. I went to creams and it's been a nice, smoother ride for me. I do pellet therapy in my own practice. I do patches, I do creams, I do pills. All of it is bioidentical. All right, ladies, you hung out with me till the end. I'm so excited. So I want to give you a gift. I want you to go, if you want to crack your own hormone code, go ahead and go to hormonequiz.co. That's hormonequiz.co. It is .co. It is not .com. It is .co. And grab your special freebie and go ahead and start answering those questions and see where you are. Crack that hormone code. So I'm giving you three things to do now. Okay, usually somebody gives you one thing. I'm gonna give you three things to do for your assignment. The first one was go crack your hormone code. So go to hormonequiz.co. The next one is if you want to schedule a virtual consult visit with me, go ahead and scan that QR code or go to talkhormones.com. Some places you have to put the www dot before it so that it will pull up and you can see the schedule and you can pick that time and we can see and talk to each other. We could even go over your hormone quiz and talk about what's going on with you. And then we can talk about if we can work together because I do put together programs for women. Sorry, let's go back. I just want to show you what I do. I do GYN checkups. I talk about thyroid dysfunction treatment, bioidentical hormone therapy, adrenal restoration, gut dysbiosis treatment. And so I am in the Maryland area, Maryland, DC area. And then if you want to go ahead and get your copy of my book, my Amazon bestseller, The Other PMS, it is like having a doc in your pocket. It is as if you're sitting on the couch talking to a girlfriend who just happens to be a doctor. You can go ahead and buy your copy today. You can scan that QR code or go to theotherpms.com and purchase your copy today. So you have three assignments, you have three pieces of homework. One, go take that quiz, hormonequiz.co. Two, you can go ahead to go to talkhormones.com, schedule your consultation visit with me virtually. Or three, go to theotherpms.com and purchase your copy of The Other PMS, your survival guide for perimenopause and menopause. And let's stay connected. I'm on all social media platforms at Dr. Lakeisha MD. That's DrLakeischaMD. It has been my pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. Linus, thank you so much for this opportunity. I have had a ball.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lakeisha. You are always so good and so much great information. And I know since I'm glad you guys are getting the replays because there was some jewels that she really dropped. Also, thank you for the confirmation in terms of things I've been saying almost every day for the last 8 months on TikTok about this whole thing of hormone therapy and the misunderstandings about symptoms and all that stuff. So thank you so much for making it clear. One of the things about this summit that I think is really important is that you guys have all the information so that you can make informed decisions. As I try to live a holistic lifestyle, but I too, at the age of 68, started some hormone therapy with estrogen because of the thinning of my vaginal walls. And it really has made a huge difference. I want to introduce to you a fabulous person, Dr. Beverly. She's going to be speaking directly to the quiet exhaustion that so many are carrying, especially with capable women who carry often without realizing that there's a name for it. Dr. Beverly Kyer is a public speaker, an educator, and a best-selling author with more than 4 decades of experience working in trauma, post-trauma stress, and compassion fatigue. She's also known as a secondary or vicarious trauma expert as well. She holds a PhD and specializes in ancestral healing and the science of epigenetics, helping us understand how stress and trauma live not just in the mind, but in the body and spirit. Dr. Kyer has served in leadership roles with the Veterans Administration, supported children and families in medical, psychiatric, criminal justice, and foster care systems, and is a certified compassion fatigue specialist. She is also the founder of the CEO of the Kyer Group Corporation, which supports helping professionals and caregivers in addressing toxic stress and restoring balance. Her work is rooted in education, restoration, resilience, and offering practical, compassionate pathways back to wholeness. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Beverly Kyer for Compassion Fatigue Impacts on the Mind, Body, and Spirit.
I am too, so not only excited, but very honored to be able to have this time to talk to you for your program and for all the ladies who's here on subject that is so critically important. And before I begin with a little bit of introduction, I should have met Dr. Lakeisha 35 years ago. Could have probably saved my health in a big way. Part of what Linus and I spoke to about was talking about mood, anxiety, and changing the brain. And I'm one of probably millions of women, particularly Black women, brown women, who did not recognize what was going on in my body mind because the work that I did, I felt strongly purposed. I felt strongly missioned. I could almost say I really appreciated being able to do my service. But I also, in addition to that, I raised two sons I gave birth to, adopted daughter who had drug exposure at her birth, two other kids from the neighborhood, had a sick sister disabled with multiple sclerosis. On and on. I had a lot of caregiving responsibilities in addition to that. So you combine that with our work stress, which is real for all of us, the microaggressions, everything, the demands, the overload of work assignments, and our family caregiving needs. I suffered with compassion fatigue and did not know that until after a second episode of heart failure. I work with children with cancer and leukemia, veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, children in the foster care system, people in children who were sex trafficked, on and on. But see, one of the things why this is such an important subject to make you aware, as Dr. Lakeisha say, is to know that compassion fatigue, also known as secondary and vicarious trauma, is predictable. It is predictable. And it's predictable because it's predictable, is preventable. But that requires you knowing what's going on in your body mind. So now I'm going to open up my slide and we're going to begin to talk about this. Let me make sure I got optimal share. Give me a moment. Okay, there's my share. How are we doing here? Okay, I'm having a little bit of tech problem. Bear with me.
We can see the slides. Are you trying to enlarge it?
Yeah, I'm trying to enlarge. It was supposed to open into presentation mode, but it didn't quite do that.
Okay, now that's the right size there.
Okay, it's a good size.
All right, thank you.
All right, so compassion fatigue really is the cost of caring. And we all do. We feel deeply for people. But it has two clinical terms, and those two clinical terms are secondary trauma and vicarious trauma. And before I go into what it is, how it manifests, the warning signs and indicators for you, and what to do to mitigate or prevent the worst aspects of it, is to define it as well as I can. First of all, it is secondary trauma. When we talk about that, we're talking about how we feel in behalf of what is happening to other people. They're suffering, they're struggling. There could be people close to us, family members who are having illness or something like that. Also in the communities outside of us, other friends and families that are challenged. We are all, I believe, majorly impacted about what's happening in our communities and the world around or the state of the country at this particular time. And so we're looking at ICE raids and we're looking at families being torn apart and we're looking at disasters and natural disasters and wars in this place, other places. But that causes secondary trauma. If you're anything like me, and I think many people are, when I hear these situations, when I see them on video or whatever the case is, or I hear about them, I get distressed and I become a little obsessed that I want to know that there's another outcome, a better outcome. Somebody has discovered a child that was kidnapped is found. That kind of, but all along while I'm experiencing the distress from somebody else's negative or traumatic experiences, my body is making dramatic chemical changes, which I'll break down for you in a little while. So that's basically what secondary trauma is. I think all of us experience that on some level. The other way of looking at it is through vicarious traumatization. Now that has a more cognitive approach. It's because you know what could happen. You've seen it, you witnessed, you've heard it, you've been exposed to it. It changes how we see things, how we look at things, how we perceive the world around us. And what it is, for instance, I worked in child welfare for a number of years. Oh my God, over 11 years. And then I went back into it later on again. But just in the early part of my career, because I know what the awful things that people do to children, innocent children, my children never got to spend the night in nobody's house. I would be at the cookout, I would be at the barbecue with folks, and all the other adults are playing cards and reading, maybe reading a book, dancing, talking, having a good time eating. And when the kids scream on the water slide, I'm jumping out of I couldn't take my eyes off of that protective mode. But here's the thing, we have been exposed to the worst of the worst. And what that does in the body mind is keep us in a state of hyper alertness, or hyper vigilance. We're always looking and scanning, seeing the possibility of something going terribly wrong for someone else. That too, that hypervigilance causes a triggering in the hormone balance and the cellular communicators in the body that says, oh no, my God, something is going to happen. That changes our mood, changes our behavior, changes our emotions, and it attacks our physical being. There is burnout, an overwhelming amount of tasks that we just do, functional tasks. Now, burnout and compassion fatigue is different. Compassion fatigue is the cost of caring, you could say, you should say. Burnout could be just relegated to a whole bunch of functional tasks in which we always multitasking, doing this, appointments, this, pick up this, shopping, cleaning, whatever, nursing, taking care in whatever form that people need those demands, and they pile up so fast on us. But we could get burnout just from the functional tasks alone. But you combine that with the other cost of caring or the compassion fatigue factors. Somebody's suffering, somebody's struggling, you learn of some traumatization that has impacted somebody or ripped the family apart, and then all the tasks you may do while you're providing care for somebody else along with the tasks, the multiple tasks in your own home, for your own family. So you combine that too, and they call that the perfect storm. And most of us, if not all of us, experience that on some level. And then there's post-traumatic stress disorder. Many of us have experienced some level of threat to our own well-being. Maybe it may not have been a personal one-on-one threat. Almost got hit by a car, something like that. Anything that threatens your well-being, the body is triggered. The body is triggered with that response. And what it does, I'm going to show you a little bit later, but it goes into a release of billions and billions of cells, cellular communicators or neurotransmitters that says, oh no, oh my God, something has happened. And so when you move into another situation that has any similarity to it, the body is automatically in stress response. Now, it doesn't rely on you to do it because body and brain thinks it's smarter than you, and it is. It notices what you don't notice. We take a lot of things for granted, but here's what happens. When there's a traumatic or frightening or potentially threatening or real threatening situation, the body will always remember what you felt, what you heard, what you saw. You get my point? All of the five senses, and I left some out to taste. I remember bile backing up in my mouth when there was a horrific situation. But those five senses are activated in some way, and the body is triggered to respond to it without you necessarily having a cognitive awareness of, oh, whoa, where did that come from? You're upset, you're nervous, your anxiety is all of a sudden up, or sometimes we just fall into this melancholy thing where we're feeling really sad or hurt or something. You just don't, you can't put it on your hands on what has just transpired. But those are neurophysiological impacts. The brain and the whole physiology all together, all at once, reacts to traumatic experiences, yours and the experiences of others that somehow you are aware of or directly connected to. One of the problems with that, and one of the reasons I did that study on epigenetics, is the cumulative effect of stress. The body never forgets anything. It buries it someplace. where you don't necessarily think about it every day, or could go for months or years and you are not consciously thinking of it, but the body remembers it. And I'm giving you a little warning or a little tip about mitigating the effect right now. Is one of the things we're very talented at. And again, I'm talking to women of color, Black women. I'm talking to all women, but I want us to know, because we do something a little extra, is that we compartmentalize really good, which means what has upset us or distressed us. It could even be a heartbreak. You kind of stuff it down into a box. I call that box Pandora's box. But then with the pile-on of another stress and another stress, which we will deal with, just keep pushing through and stuffing them down. That box, that Pandora's box, is going to crack in some way. It could be this small little fissure or a big crack, or it could just burst right open. And there is an explosion of emotions, whatever they are, depending on your personality or your state of mind at a particular time. You could be all of a sudden explosively angry and say, God, where did that come from? Or something will fly out of my mouth. I can't even believe I said that. Or I could just bust out crying and say, what's wrong? Somebody says, and I said, I don't know what's wrong. That just is just there. Or I just feel like retreating, throwing up my hands. I don't want to deal with anybody. You need to get away from me, whatever the case is. That's happened because we did not deal with stress that is suppressed or pushed down or buried. We have a really unfortunate habit of just plowing through without doing something to decompress, to release that amount of stress. Now, because we do that so well, because we're in the business of caring for other people and caring for other situations, to a large extent, to the neglect of our own, not even being aware that it's taking a toll and it's piling up on us. I believe we all need accountability partners. And that's what I lovingly call some nosy friends that just notice. And we need to give them permission to notice me, because I'm just moving, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I have my friends, my people, they say, wait a minute, you need to stop. Grab that balloon on that string on your helium balloon and say, come on down, take a rest, take a pause, sit your butt down, have a glass of water, take a walk, whatever the case is. We need those people to slow us down, because most people in that caregiving and taking care of others mentality do not know that they're supposed to take care of themselves concurrent to it. So we really need these people. And if you're honest with yourself, like I'm honest with myself, I learned the hard way. I'm not going to stop. I'm not even going to notice that I need to stop and slow down. I'm going to press. So I have my people. I've divided my community to just check in with me and say, Aunt, say, Beverly, whatever the case is, pause, decompress. You're doing all right. Everything is coming together, but stop and take care of yourself. That's a personal decision. Reason why is that every single day, from the time you wake up, particularly those of you who got kids and people that get out to work in the morning or get out to school in the morning, and you got to be in traffic in the morning, and you're going to get to your workplace, and what you thought you were going to do that day is not going to happen the way you thought it was, because the phone is ringing and something else is waiting for you, or there's a walk-in, or there's an emergency. So we stay in states of dysregulation all day. The body is this. The nervous system is this, oh my goodness, this is all out of order. Now, a dysregulated state could mean this, that various situations, some that you know and you can almost anticipate, and those that surprise you, they just crop up. And therefore, your response is not necessarily a response, it's a reaction, because it's outside of the window of your tolerance. Now, y'all know, I want to see some reactions to that. It's outside of the window, and you just find yourself being uncharacteristic. Again, not necessarily knowing what's going on. You could blame the person for making you upset, but the upset was already there. They just took you over the top. That was that proverbial straw. What you want to do every day, not just waiting to the end of the day. Please get over that and stop waiting for the weekend to take care of yourself or the next holiday. Every day, several times a day, to stop to do something that regulates your central nervous system, to calm yourself. Like I said, decompress. I'm going to say that over and over again. To de-stress yourself, to regulate yourself is critical to do. It requires both awareness and some techniques. And I like to tell my people to just send me a little chat, send me a little text, and remind me to do some of those strategies just to bring myself down. But that means that even sometimes the most difficult situations and challenges that you face or hit you all of a sudden, you could respond to them within a window of tolerance. You could be upset up a little bit because say, okay, this is this. I got this. Or I'm going to talk to somebody who will get this figured out together. But you don't have to allow your body to go into a full dysregulated state. So that's your job, to work on regulation all day. Now, part of what I do, let me say this. To regulate yourself requires you learning how to do two things that I learned from Dr. Bruce Perry. He's a renowned trauma specialist. I was one of his people who followed him a little bit around the country. And he would say, in order for people to begin to learn how to stabilize, and in some cases heal themselves, they must do two functions. And one is to integrate and one is to process. The integration is when your body begins to be triggered or distressed, or you feel the distress, to stop and think, what in your environment, whether it was a sound or smell or some activity, an annoyance or a threat of any kind, or a potential threat or perceived threat, is what's happening at that moment. You want to regulate. I get tight in my chest when it's happened. I'm a teeth clencher. My jaws get tight, and all of a sudden my jaw is aching, but I wasn't even aware that I was clenching my teeth. Pulse rate, something in my temples, my stomach. Very often is your stomach that feels distressed in that dysregulated state. But if I could connect what has happened to the stress response, wherever it is in my body or my head, then what I'm doing is mastering that awareness of the stress. And once you recognize it and you address it to yourself or process it with somebody else, you begin to calm down, as I say, mitigate the effects of it. Now, the other thing is processing. And I like to push this too, because I strongly feel that's a cultural thing for many of us. Many of us were raised or oriented into this world from our homes, not to tell people you're struggling, not to show any signs of weakness or tired or exhaustion. And that may have served a purpose for our people a long time ago. I don't think it was healthy then, and I know it's not healthy now, because our responsibilities, our tasks, the demands on us have increased so much more. And so it is important for us to maybe unlearn some of that old teaching about keep things to yourself. Linus would tell, she got at me one time about isolating because I was so distressed about something. We need to sit down and talk to people. That it could be a therapeutic situation. But in lieu of that, it could be a friend that you could just talk to, just pick up the phone and say, I need to talk. And maybe I need to pick up the phone and just listen while I cry, whatever the case is. I use the chat a lot, particularly since the COVID experience, or have Zoom sessions and just processing, because it's allowing you to release the stuff that's all stuffed down into that box. The stuff that's making your chest so tight, we need to release and put it out there. And once you do that, again, you're beginning to master your own stress response. So let me give you a little bit of the neurophysiological science. This is not an exhaustive explanation, but it just gives you a picture to know that when people say to do something about stress and relaxation, it's just not a cute kind of notion. There's a real dramatic set of chemical changes in the brain and the body with any stress. So let's begin with this. If you can see my cursor, somebody say yes or send me a little reaction. Let's begin with the amygdala, a really important part of the brain, in that it is probably your rescuer, is your alert, your alarm, your warning system that says to you, thank you, that something is happening, something is about to happening, or there's a threat of some kind. Now, the amygdala holds memory for everything that happened in your life. It even holds memory of your experience in utero before you were born into this world. Now, some of those experiences are stressful, upsetting, hurtful, and some of them are calm and happy, and they're nurturing those experiences, but it holds all of that. But because it's your alert and alarm system, what its job is to save you from going down that alley. You got to sense something's wrong about that. Don't go to that place. Don't do that. Don't turn that corner. Don't pick that up, or whatever the case is. the amygdala says, oh no. And the way it alerts and alarms you, warns you, is to send billions and billions of cellular communicators all over the body and the brain to say, stop. Whoa, something's going on. Now, under normal circumstances, when you're doing a fairly good job of staying regulated, then it's really spraying those communicators, those transmitters over the body. And so it doesn't necessarily overwhelm it, but it's going to come out there. It does, again, it doesn't wait for you. It's something that happens automatically when something is not quite right. A sudden sound, a sudden noise. You know how those of us who have children, when my children were young, my baby is 54 now, but they'd be in another room and you hear something fall over. And you don't know what that is. It was a chair or a body that fell over, and your body just goes into something because the amygdala says that was the worst case scenario. It doesn't go to the more positive, happy memories. Its job is to say something is wrong. Now you got to figure it out. Now, how you figure it out? One of those places that gets that communication is this guy called the hippocampus. This guy or this gal. The hippocampus is a modulator. The hippocampus is supposed to be able to manage that stress hormone enough to say, wait a minute, we got this. This is not that bad. We're going to talk to Linus. She told us what to do. And if I get in trouble, I could call Dr. Lakeisha, say, if you're ever in that situation, this is what you do. And the hippocampus is supposed to do that. This kind of slow it down. And it can, provided the amygdala, the amount of chemical, the stress hormone, is not flooding it. Again, when you regulate, it's like a spray. It's manageable about the hippocampus and it navigates its way through. But when you just say stress on top of stress on top of stress, I make the analogy that it's the amygdala becomes like a fire hydrant, that blast of water. It's just it over. And so when that happens, it knocks the hippocampus out of kilter. It can't stop it. And when it's knocked out of kilter, it is temporarily hijacked from performing its functions, which are critical thinking, rational thinking, problem solving, and short-term memory. And I want to let some of you know that when you think you have early onset dementia or Alzheimer's, very often is this a flooded hippocampus. Things that you ever try to introduce, you're out with 3 or 4 friends and you're trying to introduce them to somebody and somebody's name, you can't pull it together. Or when you study, you study for a test or whatever the case is. And when you get there, you can't retrieve that information because the information is buried under, I like to call it the cloud, but it is a chemical called the stress hormone. It just overwhelms it, and so it cannot perform those 4 critical functions for our everyday life. Now, whether the hippocampus can perform or not, it's going to communicate all the way over here to the orbital frontal cortex. I like to call it executive command center. Now, this guy feels, it thinks about something, and then it tells you how to respond or to react to it. So when the hippocampus is relatively regulated, it's going to send a communication over here. And orbital frontal cortex is going to say, based on the information I got from Hippo, this is what I think I need to do. Or I need to give myself a little more time to figure this out. I need to pick up the phone and call Cora. And she'll help me figure this out. That's what should happen. And again, that's in a regulated state. But when the hippocampus is hijacked, is flooded, it cannot perform its functions, particularly critical thinking and rational thought. Then the information that comes over here to the executive command center is not that responsive. In fact, it is more often or mostly reactive. That's when you open your mouth and you say something you wish you could have pulled back, or you just throw up your hands and you want to leave and retreat the situation, or you just break down, because that drives our behaviors and our emotions and our thinking and it just drives so much. So all in all, stay regulated or work yourself back into a state of regulation. It's not realistic going to stay regulated all day because things happen. Things happen. But work on regulating yourself so that this sends a moderate, manageable amount of stress hormone. Then the hippocampus can help make some judgment about what needs to happen or what does not need to happen. And then here again is how your body, mind, your thinking processes, your actions are driven to respond to situations. Now, Here's where we get sick. This is where we get in trouble. When that chemical releases from the amygdala, that stress hormone, which includes the adrenaline and the cortisol. I think everybody knows that term, cortisol. There's some additional components of that Dr. Lakeisha could tell you about. But when that happens, it's an automatic thing, an automatic response. The body does not wait for you to go into action. But what happens is the body constricts suddenly. It's like fascia tissue, and I'm making a scenario about this, a fascia tissue that's covering or protecting or shielding the skeletal structure and all the organs and the systems. But it gets tight. It braces, waiting for the worst scenario until the hippocampus can say, this is not that bad. It's going to be relatively okay. But when you continue to stay in the stress, you don't do anything to release it, to calm it, then what happens over time, that fascia tissue or whatever else gets tighter and tighter in that constricted state, and every system and every organ in the body is compromised. I don't know if this is big enough for you to read, but everything like the pupils dilate, salivary glands, your bronchial tubes, your lungs, your heart rate changes dramatically. The vessels tighten, the kidneys decrease output, the stomach decreases production of digestive enzymes. That's how most of us had some abdominal distress when we're too stressed. The bladder sphincter, blood vessels, everything is compromised. And the worst part of that is when you hold on to the stress, you stay in this sympathetic state of distress. The whole body mind is in trouble, waiting for you to do something. And it will wait, and it will get increasingly worse while it waits. For you to do something to calm and release and unconstrict the body, decompress the body so that things begin to flow again, you must use some kind of technique or method to do that release and get into the calm state, the parasympathetic state. The unfair thing, if you will, is this is automatic. It does not wait for you. It don't care. It just does this to protect you, so to say. But this is something you will have to do. You will have to do yourself. Some technique, some method, some practice, some good habit to release and calm your body mind. Now, this is just, you can look at this as kind of symptoms. And let me say this too, when Dr. Lakeisha said something about the dealing with the symptoms, that's so much part of the problem. I like to look at the root cause. That's why I did so much work and wrote about compassion fatigue in whatever form. That's the root. And until you address that, you will always have these symptoms in some form or another. But while these are impacts, I want you to look at them as warning signs and indicators that you're getting there. There's too much going on for you. So you recognize all of these things, the negativity, the avoiding tasks, the low motivation, detachment at work, staff conflicts, and tolerate those little microaggressions or nonsense or overload as much as you would have done before. The withdrawal, the loss of confidence. I did reach a point in my work in child welfare with children in the foster care system and some unbelievable, unthinkable things that happened to them. But when I was getting overwhelmed because I wasn't taking care of myself, it was a loss of confidence. I began to doubt that anything that I was doing was making any real difference. And that's a really negative place to be, the absenteeism, the exhaustion. And I will say this too, we could get physically exhausted and then pull ourselves back together, but emotional exhaustion will knock you flat out. I've met tons of people who sometimes can't even get out of bed and face another day from emotional exhaustion. That needs to be dealt with. And here's another thing I want you to watch too. Because the overwhelming amount of that stress hormone in our body, one of the things that we will lose, and it's on the other page, but I'm telling you now, is our libido will get depleted or shut completely down. And libido, yes, it has something to do with stress, sex drive. But more important, the libido has a lot to do with life, living, a zest for life, excitement, adventure, doing things, a desire to walk out. I've spoken to some friends about in the worst of my worst experiences, people say, I can't wait. It's a beautiful day. I want to get outside. I didn't care. I didn't care. I could sit and stare at the wall or pretend to be reading a book for hours because I had lost my libido, it was this flat. But think about those of you who have lost your appreciation for life and how that may look is that you have lost interest or stopped doing things that formerly gave you pleasure. Your arts, going to concerts, reading good books, associating with friends, parties, whatever, hosting this and that, museums, good walks, the beach, also your creative things. You used to paint, you used to draw, you used to do macrame, you used to crochet, you used to make things, clay, you used to bake, you used to garden, but it could be gone because the libido is shut down. Yet the good news is if you work on that stress, mitigate the stress in your body, stop and have those wonderful moments of just calming and calming, you can reactivate that. As a matter of fact, I love to tell people, because I'm a little bossy, my audiences, and I would say, find what you used to do, take stock of it, make a note and do it because I say so until you feel like it, because that's what it takes. And again, that's where some of your accountability partners could come in. You just say, no, we're going out. We know we're going out. This is an art fair, street fair in the street and down the avenue, and we're going to do it. And they pull me into it. But when I get there, now I would initially say, many of us, I don't have time. I got this to do. But my friends would say, no, you're going to get back to that later. When I get there, then I begin to feel alive. Is this an interesting little dynamic? But work on that. Get your life back. Incidentally, let me say something a wise older woman said to me at one of my trainings. She said, having a career is not the same as having a life. And that would slap upside my head because what that really translates to me, your life, your career is what you do, and your life is who you are. So we need to get that back together. Now, I put these hands together because what I was trying to illustrate here is the importance of us learning to ask for help and share responsibilities, whether it's in caregiving at home, particularly if you're a sandwich generation, you're taking care of elderly parents or a spouse or children, is to invite people to share some of those tasks and responsibilities along with you. Again, many of us have the tendency to do it yourself because they're your people, that's your responsibility, or you feel you could do it without counting the cost of the toll it takes on your body. And if I didn't say this before, I'm going to repeat it again. Just because you love them does not make you immune to the toll that is taking on your body. You need to figure out that you need help and move past that pride thing and ask for support in taking on some of those tasks. These again are some symptoms. I want you to use them and look at them as warning signs and indicators that you're getting there. Now, often when people talk about stress, they stay in the realm of the physical impacts of too much stress on the body. But in fact, compassion fatigue has 6 impacts: the cognitive, emotional, behavioral, spiritual, interpersonal, and physical. And if you take a close look, you'll find yourself there all over the map. The things that I really encourage you to look at for yourself is in the realm of the emotions, the overwhelm. Yes, the roller coaster of emotions. But here's something I want you to pay particular attention to. I believe many of us, no matter how well functioning we are, we got good jobs, we take care of a house or a great apartment, manage the car, the family, the children, the spouse, the partners that we have in our lives, all our shopping and banking, and we manage all of that stuff. Regardless of the fact, you could still be in a depressed state because you've accumulated so much stress in your body. Now, when I say a depressed state, I'm not necessarily talking about a clinical depression where you need that kind of medical help, although you can get there if you keep it up. But I'm talking about a depressed state because what we do is deplete, drain all of our systems, our emotional energies, our physical energies. We just put out, give, fix, 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 and our body just, oh my God, it has nothing left. Now that's where, in the body's effort to try to save us, it's going all the way over here to the physical thing, and it's going to attack 2 things really in a major way. The immune system compromise eventually is shut down. And that's how we have recurrent, repeated long-term illnesses. You get that cold, 6 months later, you're still coughing. You get that little cut or something and you can't heal, it becomes infected. Our immune system in so many ways that this gets shut down and we're just subject to everything, airborne stuff. You touch a surface, it is just there and you're in trouble. The other thing is that it causes a lot of somatic complaints. Now, I appreciate them if you're going to learn to appreciate the somatic complaints the way I do, because they're alerts to me. Those are the little itches and twitches and pin sticks and needles and this, whatever is going on in your system. Is, to me, it's like the body saying, girl, stop. God, you're doing too much. So the body is alerting us in some way with those stress responses. But here's the thing, most of us, and I certainly was one of those people until it was too late, ignore them. Ignore them. And that's not being a hypochondriac. Pay attention to it because it's saying, I need to do something different here. I need to take a pause on this and take care of myself, figure out what's going on in my neurophysiology, in my body, mind, and do something about that. So pay attention to those little stress things. And the other thing I talked to you about a little bit earlier was a hypervigilance and startle response. When you see yourself jumping, you're in your house and your family, whoever they are, they're there. And you may be in the kitchen or something like that, or in the living room, and somebody walks into the door. You jump out of your mind like, ooh, something, where were you? But that's that startle response. And that just means it's still, again, there's too much stress hormone flooding your system and causing that kind of reactivity. So again, that's a reminder to stop. Negative coping skills, and I'm one of those people. Everybody who knows me, one of my negative coping skills is used to be, and I really worked hard on this, is eating high carbohydrates, like a whole bag of potato chip. I'm talking about the picnic size, or eating biscuits. I'm the lady who would drive, I used to drive when I was in America, to Kentucky Fried Chicken or Popeye's Chicken, not to get chicken. I want 2 biscuits because my daddy used to come home from work at night in the morning and make homemade buttermilk biscuits. And so that's my nurturance, but that was one of my negative coping skills. And then, of course, there's the absence of sleep. Sleep deprivation is one of the most damaging things to do to the human body. But again, when you're experiencing that, do something about it. Do something about it to regulate yourself, calm yourself. So here's some of what you do. These are practices that I believe you should employ every day. Again, I say several times a day. Is a release, reboot, recharge. Matter of fact, that used to be one of my business titles, to release, reboot, recharge. That means get things off your chest, unload, talk about it, cry about it, journal about it, cuss about it, whatever the case, but get it out. Stop holding on to it because that's the way you were trained to be. That is incredibly unhealthy. Incredibly unhealthy. I didn't say this too before I wrote my book after my second heart failure. I had taken stock as part of my research of all of the people, the colleagues I'd work with directly, the collaborative when you work in those industries where there's trauma and abuse all the time. You're working with lots of other agencies. And I thought about all the people who had fallen away, fallen apart, broken families, depression, suicide, alcoholism, you name it, because they didn't release. They come home and they sit with it. Just ask people to be quiet. So that's a dangerous thing to do, but learn to do that. It's just a matter of finding the right person. You could just say, I need to talk. I need to talk. The reboot, to use one of the techniques or methods or strategies, whatever your thing is, Tai Chi, walking, running, some clay, some kind of creative activity, but to just do that. Walk away from the desk, take a break. When you're taking care of people, when they take nap time, you take that time to do something with yourself, figure it out. And recharge. Recharge is critical, and I believe you need to be looking forward to how you're going to recharge when you wake up in the morning after a day's work. What are you going to do? And some of the best recharge, in my estimation, is any of the what I call right brain activities. You have a left hemisphere and you have a right hemisphere. That left hemisphere is really like your logic, your reason, your math, your oral expression, your operations and stuff like that. And that's very important to have logic and reason. Yet if you're operating trying to make sense out of what don't make sense all the time, can you see how that is not the healthiest place to be? Important, but there should be a balance between left brain and ripening. It doesn't have to be an econ balance. It's just that you want to insert that, incorporate those. Those are your creative things, doing things that just relieve you, things that bring you joy, things that make you happy, things that make you relax. And these are not chores. These are not chores. You could bake if that just really lifts you. You could garden if that really lifts you. But make and create, go see things that just bring you a lot of joy. Concerts, museums, street fairs, what have you, parties, socializing, just go get with your friends. During the COVID, I had a habit of having parties on a Zoom, or my best friend and I, we had cocktail parties at 6 o'clock, and Sunday coffee after church. We watched church on video, but we just get together and dissociate. Now, here's the thing. The chemistry in the right brain, what is that? That's your serotonins, your endorphins and dopamines. Those are important chemicals because they lift you. They let you see outside the box. They make you happy. They need you. When you hit the wall, you can say, what's the next best thing? When things seem impossible, you can see other possibilities. It just lifts you into a different place. And I dare say for many of us who are high functioning people, our serotonin levels are probably in our shoes. Ask one of the doctors. It's not where it should be. I used to take some supplements in the worst state of my health, yet I just do things now to produce and lift that level of chemistry in this makes me happy. In the worst situations, at some point I could see what was positive and what I was able to do. There were so many situations. I used to do a lot of debriefing for people after tragedy, particularly a high profile murder of a child. And the agent, a social worker or a counselor who was responsible, a clergy person responsible for that child's nurturance, I would be so depressed. And I would say, after much talk about this, that, and the other, I would say, what did you get to give when they were here? And that's the interesting thing about operating in that hemisphere of the brain, is that you can think eventually of what you got to give to that person that was helpful to them, brought some joy to them, and made your service or caregiving to them of value, of value. So work on that several times a day. Just take a pause. It doesn't take a long time. It could take 10 minutes. You could take 7 minutes. But you're recharged. Think, make a note in your calendar what you're going to do when you get home or on the way home. Now, I would like to give you, Linus, do I have enough time? I want to give a little exercise. Shout out to me.
Yeah, you have about 4 minutes, something like that.
Okay, I'm going to run over 4 minutes, maybe make it 8 minutes.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
You sure? Because we
Yeah.
can do this later. Okay, so this I want you to do a little exercise, as I like people have an experiential experience. And what I'm going to ask you to do, just do this and I'll explain more of it later if I get a chance. I want you to count complete breaths, because I want you to experience how you could change your central nervous system in 60 seconds, So I'm going to set my clock for 60 seconds, and I'm going to ask you to count when I say count. And a complete breath is an inhalation and an exhalation. Inhale, exhale, that's one breath. Inhale, exhale, that's two breaths. So we're going to do that for 60 seconds. And I'll tell you when to start and I'll tell you when to stop. So start counting. Now stop counting and write that number down. Write that number down of your complete breaths. Now what I want you to do is to breathe with this machine, not 10 minutes, but for 60 seconds. I'm going to again time it, and I want you to breathe. The breathe is going to tell you when to inhale and when to exhale. So breathe along with it, and I'll keep it. Don't count, just breathe with the machine when it starts. Started the count. Let the breath be very deep. Okay. Stop. Stop. Now, once again, I'm going to give you 60 seconds to breathe again. To breathe again. Just 60 seconds to count complete breaths. Ready? Remember, inhalation and exhalation is a complete breath. Start counting. Okay, stop. Now, what I'd like you to do is write that number down. And this time, I want you to go into the chat box, open up the chat, and I want you to put both breaths in. First, the breath before the machine, and then next to that, the breath after the machine. Just put those into the chat. Linus. Okay, the rest of you put it into the chat quickly. 14 to 10, 22 to 10. Ooh. Thank you, Dr. Naima. Where's the rest of you? First number, then second number. 20 to 12. Anybody else? First number and second number? If you're looking at this chat, what's come in here, I have a 22 and then a 10, a 14 and then a 10, a 20 and then a 12. Can anybody say, what do you think that is? What's happening? I know you can't talk because you're muted. Let me show you what's happening. This is a severe, no, these are complete breaths, the CPM per minute, and then this is the level of stress. Now, a doctor could say this better, but I say, this is a real healing breath, but it's probably not that realistic that we will be here that much. But the moderate is more likely, but what we saw is a number of people right here at the border of severe stress state. Moderate, close to here. But when each of you took time to do slow, deep, rhythmic breath, just for 60 seconds, you move closer to a healing breath, which meant that you calm. You move from this sympathetic state, which is really high levels of stress, to a sympathetic state, which is a calmer state of being. Now, the point is that I just showed you that in 60 seconds. Imagine if you spent 3 minutes breathing, how much healthier you would feel, how much calmer you would feel. So I just wanted to share that part with you and say this is a closing from one of my favorite trainers and mentors is there's no better way to combat secondary and traumatic stress than to take care of your physical and mental health to avoid feeling overwhelmed, including feelings of frustration and sadness. Is very important to engage in activities. And some of those activities is like the brain chemistry shift, the right brain activities, the restorative sleep, the social connections are critical to do. And also another thing that's very important to do, I believe in solitude, but to quiet your mind from time to time. Dance therapy, good, ridiculous reading, there's some humor and comedy. Those are just some of the things to do. But that's what I wanted to share with you. And again, I say I am happy to have had this time with you. I'm very honored to have this time with you. And one of the things, I don't know if I put it in here, I'm giving as a gift for those who have participated. You make a call and we could have a 15-20 minute Zoom session for free, just to talk to you more about your stress and help you, if I can, to consider shifts in your life. I like to ask our people not to always model your life the way your neighbors or your friends are. You need to understand the multitude of tasks and responsibilities on you and figure out where you could fit in your time to take care of yourself. And my book is to be found on Amazon. It explains in detail. I've also included specific sections for different professions that we may be in and how to handle yourself, help yourself in those stressful situations as well. So take advantage of that book and on Amazon. I think it's still in Barnes and Noble.
Yes, I'll include the link to your book on the replay page.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Beverly. So
Thank you for
powerful.
having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
So
much.
powerful. And I know everybody's going to play it back again to get even more information. I wanted to let you know that we do have another speaker. And then after that, Dr. Sarah Doyle, we're going to chat a little bit before we close it out. I hope that this is some meaningful information for you. I did have one housekeeping note. At the end of the total summit is when you will get all of the replays and all of the downloads, because I have to be realistic. Working after this and doing the downloads and the editing, and plus I have some clients I have to see later on in the day. It's just too much. And after listening to you, Dr. Beverly, I thought, okay, let me be realistic. And you'll get it by no later than Sunday night. All of the replays, all of the downloads that were promised to you from the speakers. And I hope this is adding value. I know it's adding value to and I'm really excited. One of the things that I really wanted to do was to be able to share with you alternative ways to be well, alternative ways to take a look at the things that you might be going through. And some of you might say, gee, I'm older now, I'm not in menopause, I'm not going through this, I'm not going through that. But the reality is that this is information that actually, and as I think you learned from Dr. Lakeisha, that menopause doesn't have an age limit per se. Once you're in menopause, you're always there. But the other thing is, we have daughters, we have Generation Xers who are friends, colleagues who are younger, that this information is valuable also. But the main thing that I want you to really think about is just to open up your minds and open up your awareness of the kinds of information that's out there, because you really do have a choice. And gone should be the whole idea that you have to suffer, that there's no answer for the symptoms that you're experiencing, and that this is just the way it is, and this is just what it means to get older, is that you're just going to have pain, you're going to have stress, you're going to have hormonal issues, you're going to get chronic diseases. It does not have to be that way. I'm 68 and I don't have any of those. And it's not because I'm so perfect, but I do have a mindset that I'm going to take a look at alternative things before I move to something else. And that is why I'm so excited to talk with you about Corinne Kamara. She is going to show us how to slow down and reconnect with the body's innate wisdom especially during one of the most tender transitions of a woman's life. Karine Kamara is a licensed acupuncturist, spiritual life coach, and the founder of Karina, I want to say it's Karina. You have to tell me, you have to correct me, honey, where she has spent more than 15 years supporting women through perimenopause and menopause as sacred passages of transformation and renewal. She's trained in traditional Chinese medicine. Corinne weaves together acupuncture, energy healing, and spiritual coaching to help women regulate their nervous systems, restore their balance, and move through hormonal shifts with greater ease and compassion. Her work is grounded in the philosophy of joyful aging, honoring the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. What makes her approach so powerful is her ability to bridge ancient wisdom with modern life, offering practical tools that women can use immediately while also creating space for deeper emotional and spiritual healing. Please join me in welcoming Corinne Kamara as she talks about the cool down, where she'll share how acupuncture and acupressure can support comfort, calm, rest during this most important stage of life. Thank you so much for being here. I know we're running a little bit behind schedule, but I think your message is truly important. I have to tell you that I met Corinne through a platform where I connect with people on my podcast. And she was on my podcast, did a wonderful time, did a wonderful job. And I just knew that I wanted her to just be a part of what we do in the V.I.B.E Wellness Woman Network. She's not only here as a speaker, but she's also a contributor, as is Dr. Lakeisha and also Dr. Beverly Kyer. Thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful having you.
Thank you so much. All right. So my talk is going to be on cooling the body, the ancient wisdom of hormonal balance. And here we go. So she said there was a beautiful bio, so I'm not going to spend too much time on my bio, but my name is Corinne, and I'm an acupuncturist and a spiritual life coach, and I've had over 15 years experience working with women in holistic health and healing, and my practice is in Lafayette, California, and I also work with people online. Okay, so the heat within. So hot flashes, night sweats, a sense of internal heat during the perimenopause and sometimes going into the menopause phase isn't just hormonal fluctuations. So in Chinese medicine, or TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, these symptoms reveal a deeper imbalance where unexpressed emotions literally become fire in the body. When we suppress anger, resentment, grief, or frustration over the years or decades, they can appear, they don't disappear, it turns into heat. And so this heat disturbs the hormonal harmony of the body, and it affects three of the major meridian systems in the body. So we're going to be talking about the liver, the pericardium, and the kidney channels, and how they are affected by this pathological heat. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the liver. So the liver energy system in traditional Chinese medicine also can be referred to as meridians or channels. The acupuncture points are all along these energy systems. And the liver governs the smooth flow of qi, or life force or energy, and processes the emotions of anger and frustration. And so when women are constantly putting it together, swallowing their feelings, not expressing how they feel, the liver energy starts to stagnate. And over time, the stagnation creates heat that flows upwards that can disturb the heart energy, which is our emotional center. Thus, we see anxiety, insomnia, and emotionally feeling inflamed. The heat can also be repressed emotions that are coming to the surface that are going to be now, this is an opportunity for them to be healed. So midlife, I like to think about midlife as a fork in the road. It's an opportunity to see how we've lived our lives and to choose to do something different by addressing these repressed emotions that haven't really been addressed. And oftentimes our life is busy, especially when we're raising kids, family, career, and our bodies in midlife are really telling us to start to shift and heal. So it's an opportunity for us to feel, what have we been holding on to all these years, and what can we let go of? So next is the pericardium. So the pericardium is a protector. The pericardium is the heart's protector as a fascia. So it's literally the fascia layer that protects the heart organ. And when we're experiencing any kind of betrayal, emotional pain, heartbreak, the pericardium builds energetic walls to keep us safe and keep our heart safe. And these protective walls also trap in heat and trap in emotions, preventing it to really be released. And then it increases this internal pressure, which is similar to when you feel pain or heartbreak, you feel like something is sitting on your chest. So this is particularly relevant for women who have spent decades feeling strong for others and not taking care of their own heart, over giving, oversharing, and not taking care of themselves and not putting them first. And the other meridian is the kidney, which is the hormone connection. In Chinese medicine and TCM, the kidneys store our essence, our energy. It's the source of our energy in our system, of the way we think about energy. It's a yin and a yang. And our overall body, all of our energy gets stored in the kidneys. And it governs our reproductions, it governs the hormones, our vitality, our sex drive. And when the kidneys are depleted, we often start to see lots of a variety of different symptoms. And the kidney energy ages as we age. However, during perimenopause, the kidney yin, and kidney yin is what we talk about in terms of Chinese medicine. Yin is pretty much the liquids in our body. It's the blood, the sweat, it's the essence, and that naturally declines as we get older. But if you are suffering from heat, it starts to go by faster and you start to experience the hot flashes and the dryness. And when we have repressed emotions in the liver, the heat can descend and further deplete the kidney yin, accelerating the hormonal depletion. So it's essentially when you're going through your hormonal reserves faster, that when you're going through them faster if you're carrying unprocessed emotions, essentially. And I like to use an analogy of the kidneys being like your savings account, and we want to live off the interest. And if you are stressed, if you have repressed emotions, if you're not working out and having a healthy lifestyle, it's going to greatly affect your kidney energy, which causes it to become more depleted, causes you to age faster. And it's similar to like you're living off of your principal, which eventually, if you're living off your principals and your saving account is going to be depleted. So I like to have that analogy of we want to live off the interest. And living off the interest means you're taking care of yourself on an emotional, spiritual, energetic level, and of course, physical, and eating all the things and having a good mindset, positive mindset. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Western approach. So the cortisol emotional cascade. So we all are familiar with the fight or flight response. So chronic emotional suppression can give us a low grade fight or flight. And every time we swallow, I'm fine, I'm good, I don't need help, I got it. All of those things can trigger a cortisol release. And over the years, having elevated cortisol disturbs the entire hormonal balance, steals pregnenolone away from progesterone and estrogen production. So instead of pregnenolone is the master hormone that creates your sex hormones, but if you're stressed or you have high elevated cortisol level, it will make more stress hormones, more cortisol to balance your body out. So essentially, it's like you're constantly, your body feels like you're constantly running away from something, like your tiger is chasing you all the time. And that high level of cortisol creates inflammation in the body, and it creates a whole cascade of other health issues. So we want to always think about how we can calm the nervous system down and work on not living in a fight or flight response. And in Chinese medicine, this specifically really depletes the kidney energy, which I just mentioned. So this is another angle, another way of thinking about it is high cortisol depletes the kidney energy. And this is what I call you're driving your car on empty. There's no gas and you're burning the oil, and eventually the car is going to shut down. And which is what most women find when they're in this fight or flight. They start to have a lot of the compassion fatigue. Your body starts to stop working the way it used to. and then your body crashes, and then you go through a whole cascade of health issues. So another hormone that gets affected by emotions is the thyroid. So the thyroid is a hormone that metabolizes in the body. It metabolizes the system, our temperature, our weight. The thyroid is really important. And a lot of the times, women develop thyroid issues as we age. And the liver meridian, like I mentioned earlier, has to do with anger, frustration, stress, and that wraps around the throat and that goes through the thyroid. So when your liver is congested and and it's not flowing, it could disturb the thyroid function. And the thyroid functions when it's hyper is a racing heart, anxiety, heat intolerance. It could be losing weight too fast. And then hypo could be weight gain, fatigue, depression, constipation. Either way, and you're always cold. Either way, when the thyroid hormones are imbalanced, it affects your metabolic and you become unstable metabolically. And that instability can really wreak havoc in your life. The thyroid is also close to the throat chakras, if we're gonna also mention energy centers of the body. And the throat chakra has a lot to do with communication, also communicating like what's in your heart. So when you're not able to express your emotions through your voice, it can get stuck in your throat, which can then have an adverse effect on the hormonal glands that are located in that area, which is the thyroid. And so the next one is estrogen dominance and emotional stagnation. I think this is one of the places that people tend to feel the most because this is directly related to the liver. So when emotions stagnate, everything stagnates in the body, including the estrogen metabolism. And the liver is the one that processes and clears used estrogen from the body. And fun fact, estrogen is a hormone that is in every cell of our body, which is why there's over 37 symptoms of perimenopause, because it can affect everything in our body, including our skin, our breast, our face, everything is affected by estrogen fluctuations. So when the liver chi is stuck, it's generating heat from emotional repression. It can't effectively metabolize hormones, which can lead to estrogen dominance. So if you were menstruating, it could have been heavy periods, breast tenderness, mood swings, eventually could lead to fibroids, cysts. It could also, estrogen dominance is also when women have very big breasts that started developing early in their adolescence. That's also estrogen dominance. So when emotions are trapped, it traps the hormones as well. So that's also one of the biggest reasons to work on clearing your emotions. And PMS is really linked to having estrogen dominance, the emotional, the mood swings. And so that's really highly affected on your emotional state. Okay. Here's the next one. So now we're going to talk about some solutions for cooling your hormonal system. So one of the things about having repressed emotions is figuring out what you can do to release them. Like we talked about earlier with the cortisol levels, like reducing your cortisol allows pregnenolone to flow towards your sex hormone productions, because pregnenolone is a master hormone. So it's going to do what your body's going to need to do. And sex hormones are one of the hormones that it's not low on the totem pole, but it's not as important as your thyroid, right? Because your thyroid is your metabolism. It regulates your body temperature. Like you can't live without your thyroid functioning properly. You can live without your your sex hormones functioning normally. It's not a very pleasant life because life becomes more dull. You don't have as much energy. Having a good sex drive means you're healthy. So having a good balance of sex hormones creates a stability in your life, but it's not vital like your thyroid. However, it's vital to living a joyful, fulfilling life. So you want to really, first of all, it's always important to do the hormonal tests, making sure that you're all getting all your Western tests done. I think it's always important to look at multiple angles when you're looking at hormone health. So having your testing done gives you a good framework of where your hormones are. And then you can then take that information and then utilize it from in a holistic way, spiritual way, however works for you. So you want to reduce cortisol, and reducing cortisol means lowering your stress and lowering and figuring out how you can manage your stress better. It improves the liver functioning by enhancing estrogen metabolism. So even if you are taking hormone replacement in menopause or perimenopause, it's still important to improve your liver function so you can actually utilize the hormones that you're adding to your body. So even if you're in menopause, it's still important to improve your liver function for just overall health and also being able to metabolize any kind of hormones that are you're taking artificially. Cooling your inflammation supports insulin sensitivity and thyroid balance. So another aspect I didn't mention, but having inflammatory markers also affect your blood sugar levels. So having high levels of blood sugar, insulin, all of these things give you predisposition to diabetes and all sorts of other issues. So having a low level inflammation in your body is always ideal. And with sugar, that's a whole other conversation. That's not, it's linked to your hormones, but that's also a conversation around digestion and emotionally that has to do with feeling nourished. When you don't feel nourished, I think somebody, Dr. Beverly mentioned it, you reach for food because food is the feeling of feeling loved and feeling taken care of. And when we lack love and we lack goodness and within ourselves, we reach for dopamine hits. And oftentimes that's food, and most likely it's sugar, which then can affect your blood sugar, which then affects all your other systems in your body, affecting your hormones and all of those things. But if you start to think about how you're eating, it's almost always linked to an emotional cause. And the last one here, kidney yin conservation preserves hormonal essence. So the more that you can conserve your kidney energy, the better your hormonal balance will be as you age. So preserving your kidney yin is pretty much how can you keep your peace, right? How can you release toxic people out of your life? How can you release your own negative, toxic conversations that you're having with yourself? How can you eat better? How can you rest? These are all things you want to think about to calm and cool your body down. So the first thing about emotional releasing, it's always the first step is always the willingness to address what's happening for you, because the first part of healing is awareness. Okay, like you realize that your body is going haywire during this midlife moment and you want to address the emotions around it. So the first step is having the willingness. That's also ultimately that's like almost halfway there, just having the willingness to see what's going on with you, and also having the awareness or building the awareness of understanding your emotional state and how it's linked to your body, and having a different conversations with yourself. So I saw there's a picture of a woman journaling, but you want to give yourself permission to feel and express what's been locked in your body all these years. And I gave you some ideas of how you can work with that. You can do somatic exercises, breath work, journaling, sound healing, therapy, coaching, acupuncture treatments, target specific emotional holding points, which can release the heat. Ultimately, when you're working on emotional release, it really does take time, it takes patience, it takes willingness, and it takes a lot of grace, because you'll be looking in parts of yourself that are painful. So resentment, working, that means you need to start looking at ways that you can forgive yourself and forgive whoever you feel has harmed you. And these are delicate, vulnerable spaces that you're wanting to look at. And it can take a little bit of patience and care and tenderness, which is why it's nice to work with someone so someone can actually hold space in that loving space for you. However, it is also an opportunity for you to love yourself in a different way. So I am a big component of love as being an ultimate healing tool. And when I talk about love, I'm talking about divine, universal love, love as an energy system, and being able to tap into that for your own inner healing to heal a lot of these emotions that I mentioned that are creating heat in the body. So, self love, self compassion creates spaciousness for emotions to move through us rather than being trapped. So, accessing your emotions is important, but it's the love that really moves that energy out of your body and out of your system by creating a loving balm for these pain points inside of you. So, we want to approach these repressed feelings with a loving awareness rather than judgment, and rather than self-pity, rather than any kind of negativity around the negativity that you're carrying, because that is just going to contribute to the negativity and to the pain. So we want to allow our body's innate cooling system and our nervous system to function. Our bodies are naturally designed to heal. Acupuncture is one of my favorite modalities because really I'm helping your body heal by putting in specific points, but your body's doing the work. I'm just guiding it, but your body's taking over once it's given the opportunity. So the same with self-love and self-compassion. The more that you can pour into yourself, the more that your body will heal, the more these emotions will start to unlodge themselves and start to move through your body. So here's some practices for you to think about. And we can do one of them here if we want, if we have time. But I can talk about the second one because that's something that you can do at home. Love is can feel very triggering for people because a lot of us grew up in a home that was maybe the love was transactional, the love was painful, it was conditional, right? If you had difficult relationships with your parents, your siblings, you got abused, there's so many pain points that all humans suffer from. And so love can be triggering when even just the concept of love for some people can bring up pain. So if that's your case, if you feel like I don't understand what love is, I don't know how to tap into that, I invite you to think of something else that can be just as calming, thinking of words like peace, thinking of empathy, kindness, compassion, thinking of another emotion that is from love, but that can be less triggering from you, and start there. So that's a good starting place if love is too triggering. And one of the things about loving or tapping into love, if we don't love ourselves, then it's really hard to not only heal ourselves, but it's also hard to provide love for other people. And so we're talking about here is healing ourselves and healing, like getting that midlife awakening. And I am encouraging women to awaken to themselves, to awaken to the love that they carry within themselves and tapping into the love that is innately all of our right to have. All of us have access to it, but we have these emotional blocks, emotional pains that are blocking us from getting access to ourselves. Like we don't have access to our soul, to our hearts because of all the pain that has been accumulated over the years, which is why I love this midlife, because I know for me, by the time I hit my fourth decade, I was so over living from a place of pain that I wanted to understand myself from a new perspective. And I'm like, I decided like I want to live the rest of my life in a space of love, joy, and happiness. So I'm going to take control of my narrative and shift my mindset because I don't want to live the rest of my life like I did when I was in my 20s and 30s. And for so many women, this is an opportunity for us to do that because our hormones are changing, right? They're no longer focused on reproduction. It's now about living. So now that our hormonal balance is no longer about having babies and moving forward in that way, it's okay, how can we live the rest of our lives from a place of love and understanding of who we are? So one of the exercises I give a lot of my clients to start out with this whole concept of loving yourself is looking in the mirror. And you can do this close off, close on. Close off is a little bit more triggering. But the first step is to look in the mirror, look yourself in the eye, and say, I love you and I accept you. Because a lot of the negative feedback we got as children was somebody looking down on us and looking at us and saying, you're bad, like whatever the negative connotation is, or getting bullied. And all of these things were talked to us, they were talked at us, and we absorbed it through our eyes and through our bodies. So now we want to do the opposite. I want you to look in the mirror, look at your eyes, and tell yourself, I love you. I accept you. And once you feel comfortable with that, I didn't write this in, but the next step of this is the first one, and this often is triggering enough for people to say that they love themselves. A lot of people cry, they have a whole emotional release around that. So if you do that, you say that a few times in the mirror every day, and then the next step would be it's to say, I love you to every part of your body. So that would look like, I love you hair, I love you eyes, I love you nose, I love you mouth, I love you chest, I love you breast. And you just go down to I love you feet. And you especially want to say, I love you to the parts of your body that you feel insecure about, the parts of your body that you don't like, the cellulite that you don't like, your sagging skin, your stretch marks, all the things that you don't like, that you are ashamed about. Those are the areas that you want to infuse love in. If you have any kind of illness or pain, that's you want to infuse love into the knees, into the ankles, the arthritis, all the things. So that would be the next exercise if you felt comfortable with I love you in the mirror. The next evolution of that is saying I love you to all the different body parts, including the pain points. And the first exercise I put here is just to start having awareness, loving awareness in your body. So it's a pretty simple exercise. You sit on a chair or on the couch and you put your feet on the floor, and you want you to have your back straight. And the reason why it's important to have your back straight is our nervous system starts at the seat and it goes all the way to the top of our head. So we want to have our nervous system the most receptive by being straight, right? So you can have a comfortable seat. That's the bottom of your nervous system, so that the energy can go from the bottom of your nervous system all the way to the top of your head and beyond. So you want to sit straight, and you can put one hand on your heart and then another hand in your stomach, and you start taking deep breaths. Just breathe. And your thoughts are going to go through your mind. You just want to breathe and start sending love to different parts of your body. And at this point, if you try this at home and you're like, I can't tap into love, I don't know what that means, like I mentioned earlier, think about a person that you love a lot, like your parent, your child, your dog, your plants, your clients, somebody that you love so much. It's an unconditional, it could be God if you're religious. And that is the feeling that you want to hold on to. And then you want to send that love to different parts of your body. And I say no more than 3 because then it could be a little overwhelming. But this is more like this exercise is in particular is if you are suffering from something like you have a stomach pain, or you have a migraine, or you're having back pain, chronic pain. This is an exercise to bring some loving awareness to that area. And this could also, if you wanted to take it up a notch, this exercise could also be a conversation with your body. So if you are having pain in your stomach, you can send love to your stomach and start asking some curiosity questions like, what's going on? Like, why are you hurting? What is this pain about? Getting more curious on what's happening with your body. And the more that you do this, the first time, second time, you may not hear anything. But over time, if you practice and you're consistent, you'll start to see, oh, actually, my stomach hurt when I have a conversation with this particular person, or whenever I'm talking to my partner, I have this stomach pain. And then you can start to create the dots of your emotions and what's happening into your body and where it's repressed. And then you can really use this loving awareness to actually tap into that pain point, move love into it, and start to move it out of your body. So that's a little bit more a somatic release, and that may require a little bit more time, but I have a 30-minute free consultation that you're welcome to sign up for if you have a particular health issue or emotional concern, and we can walk through it specifically for you, and I can help you figure out a practice that could be more effective for what you're particularly going through. Because this is more of a general exercise of thinking about how you can tap into your heart center, your heart energy, your love, and then the pain point in your body, and then sending love to that area, and then having a conversation around what's that pain about. Because oftentimes it would be something I mentioned today, like frustration, anger, resentment, etc., etc. And you want to see how you can move that through your body, not only to lift your heart and your spirit, but also to balance your hormones and to live a more joyful life. And let's see the next one. Okay, so this is the conclusion of my presentation here, but there is an extremely powerful connection between your emotional well-being and your hormones. And perimenopause and menopause is like the most amazing time to be able to look at these connections and really heal them. Because as we age, we want to be able to release all these negative emotions, because I really believe aging gracefully means releasing these negative emotions. I think we've probably experienced an older person that is really negative in how they look. Their face is crunched, their voice, they age, they're brittle, they're in a lot of pain because they never really dealt with their emotional pain, which can lead them to all sorts of dementia and all sorts of illnesses that are not necessarily always 100% linked to emotions. But I believe that if you don't deal with your emotions, it definitely has a negative impact on your aging and your overall health. So releasing negative emotions, most importantly, is connecting to your heart energy, tapping into love. And love is a healing balm that we all need to soften the pains that are affecting our lives and health. And I think that love is really what we need right now in this world that we're all living in. And this is my information, so you can stay connected. You can find me online. You can email me. I'm sure it'll be in the communication with the summit. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, all the things. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was so informative and so timely. I think that especially we as Black women have a special need to address these issues because we do keep so much inside and we have had so much trauma, different kinds of trauma. And it's not just because we're Black. A lot of it has to do with the socioeconomics of living in this country and the lifestyles that we've either been born into or have had to adapt. And it causes this trauma. As Dr. Beverly has stated, now you're stating too, that it's something that we really do need to deal with. And I'm hoping that you ladies will go ahead and reach out to Dr. Beverly or Corinne or even Dr. Lakeisha. In fact, after the summit, their information is still going to be up under the Midlife Awakening Summit. You can contact them, you'll see their information. And also, there's going to be another page after the summit is over that's going to go up where you go as members now to the V.I.B.E Living Network to get access to these replays and access also to the notes and the downloads that the speakers are offering. And on the page with the replays and everything else are also our sponsors, VitaFem, ASEA, also Soul Health Community, and Mind Trainer. And I'll be talking more about those through the summit. Dr. Sarah Doe is one of the key sponsors of the Midlife Awakening Summit. I am so grateful for her vote of confidence. I greatly admire her background and her expertise. Let me tell you something a little bit about her. Dr. Sarah Doe is a former ICU physical therapist turned functional medicine clinician and diplomat of the American Clinical Board of Nutrition, who specializes in hormone optimization and disease prevention through evidence-based nutrition. After about 7 years of publishing research, writing best-selling books, The Thin Formula and the 7X Method, co-founding Heal Regenerative Institute at the prestigious Carlin Wellness Resort, and working as a performance physiotherapist for artists like Shakira and The Weeknd, Dr. Doyle identified a major gap in women's hormone care, especially during perimenopause and menopause. She created a new menopause supplement to be as strong as HRT under the VitaFem brand, and they are sponsoring our summit. And it's very potent, all-natural, research-backed daily stick packed designed to reduce brain fog, balance hormones, improve compliance by dissolving easily in water, proven through before and after testing and published case studies. This innovative formula reflects Dr. Doyle's mission to help millions of women thrive through their second puberty and beyond, and without reliance and pharmaceuticals. Doyle, thank you so much for being here. Such a long resume, but a merited one because you've really done some amazing work. I have a commercial which has further information.
So I'm also a clinical educator for a hormone lab. So the first doctor that was on here, Dr. Medea, I noticed she used the Dutch. So I'm a clinical educator for a hormone lab. That's actually the competitor, their physician's lab out of Boca Raton. Why do I love them? Well, their reports are easy to read. The patients can understand it. They're less expensive and the turnaround time is a lot faster. So I've been using them for my patients. And then as a clinical educator, I was able to see that what that means is I teach other doctors how to read and interpret the test. So if any other practitioner on here has done a Dutch test before, it's way more intense than regular blood work, right? There's enzymes, there's genetic implications, there's all kinds of stuff. Using the physician's lab, I can see what other doctors' patients look like taking BHRT, and I can see what my patients look like taking my product, and you can't tell the difference. You cannot, when you're looking at the test results side by side, you're unable to see who's on the prescription and who's on my product. So I've launched on Amazon, TikTok, and then I have a Shopify. And we've been on for less than 2 months. And so I'm looking to expand. I also have a perimenopause formula that's ready to go as soon as I get some funding for inventory. That is for estrogen dominance profile. So that can be anyone from early stage perimenopause where they stop ovulating and they lose their progesterone, has a low progesterone booster, to just the typical woman. And this actually hits the African American population harder. They struggle a little bit more with the estrogen dominant symptoms. And when I was writing one of my case studies, I came across some research that showed that African Americans suffer the worst with perimenopausal symptoms, like lasting up to 10 to 11 years. Like going through puberty for 11 years sounds awful. So I'm here to try to help that. Asian Americans takes 5 or 6 years, and then Caucasians and Latinas fall in the middle. But so I have another formula that will be coming out as soon as I get funding. I'm doing a $350,000 raise right now for inventory and marketing. And I'm just really excited about this. So I want women to be able to try this. You can message me or reach out to me. I'm sure my contact information is somewhere here. I do offer free 15-minute consultations on the VitaFem website. It's VITA-FEM website. The reason I made it a little stick pack was because I was using Designs for Health and Standard Process, and my clients were swallowing like 20 pills a day. And when they go on vacation, they don't want to travel with those 5 jars of product. What I did is I combined it in a little stick pack. So all they have to do, I made it really cheap to go on the subscription. That's why I made up a big discount, because I want people to subscribe. I want them to take it for 2 or 3 months, because that's how long it takes for women to adjust. You'll feel some relief within the first like 7 to 10 days. Some people report their hot flashes are totally gone. But for any woman, like it takes a solid 2 to 3 months to get the full effect, whether you're doing prescription or doing this botanical approach. It is 4,000 milligrams plus of plants all ground up. So it's drinking AG. Like, I don't know if you drink powder greens like AG1, but it's like that. You got to shake it up a little bit. It does have magnesium malate. I like magnesium malate because it supports ATP production in the mitochondria of your cells. So ATP is energy. Mitochondria is what manufactures it. So I like that type of magnesium. It's not the kind of magnesium that's going to make you poop your pants. So don't worry, it's 400 milligrams. And there's also a B complex, like we have folate, B12, pantothenic acid, B5, which you need to make the hormones from cholesterol. Your body takes cholesterol and then makes hormones. So it's got all the building blocks that you need to raise your progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and a good amount of ashwagandha to help that cortisol regulate. So most of my clients like taking this right after dinner. You want some food in your stomach just because it's over 4,000 milligrams of active ingredient. And my patients are saying they're having the best sleep of their life. Their libido is coming back. Their vaginal lubrication is returning. Their skin texture is getting better. It's not as crepey. Hormone-related migraines going away. All kinds of stuff. So I'm really pleased with it. And if anybody is interested in trying it, I will give a free 1 month supply to anybody on this webinar. So you can just reach out to me, contact VitaFem, and then you can get your subscription with
Yes, in fact, on their programs, there is a direct link to them so they take a look at
that's
it.
right.
But also, when I send you the replays, I'll give you doctor's contact information so you can try before you buy kind of thing to see how you like it. I can tell you from the testimonials that I've seen, and I also know Dr. Sarah and what an excellent job she does with taking her knowledge of plant science and herbs and applying it to situations like this. And I really want you all to have some options because there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. And for me personally, this is something that right now I have the estrogen patch, but I'm going to switch because I'm already beginning to, I don't know if I'm having symptoms or not, but something's a little different that I'm not so great about. But I did it because I started having yeast infections like I was 19 years old back in college. And I couldn't understand why I was getting that. And then I learned, of course, that was because of lack of estrogen in my vaginal walls, vaginal estrogen, which is a huge issue for women over 60 and beyond. The other issue as we age, and people are thinking now that I'm older, I won't have any problems with hormones. But another thing you need to know is that even though you may not have had symptoms when you were younger in terms of menopause and all of that, your body is still keeping the score in terms of what's there and what's not there. And it can present in other ways, like osteoporosis, heart disease, and not just the atrophy of the vaginal walls, but UTI infections, which is very common in women in their 70s. So this is something that we need to know and to manage because I know we have women here ranging from 40 to 77. And some might be thinking, well, this doesn't apply to me because I'm sick, but no, you'd be surprised. And Dr. Doyle, I was wondering if you could just shed some light a little bit about some of the symptoms in women over 60 that are hormonally driven.
Sure. Insomnia is a big one. They don't realize how much, because we're women, we have periods, we just tough it out. Definitely the skin texture, like the more wrinkles in the face, the crepiness of the skin. Some women get just pain in the vaginal area. They get atrophy of the labia minora. They can actually lose some of their vagina. It'll go away. So if you're not responding well to the estrogen patch, you can always do like a cream of estrogen and DHEA. This product seems to be working to help it, which surprises me. So not having vaginal lubrication, also it causes the intercourse will feel like shards of glass because it's actually causing micro tears to your vaginal wall because it becomes so thin. So intimacy becomes difficult for women when they stop menstruating. Once you get beyond the hot flashes, it doesn't mean that you're okay. That's one of the biggest things I hear is, oh, I'm past that menopause, I'm fine. I'm like, you're not, because you cannot feel your bones losing density. Like Lynette says, you're 4 times more likely to get osteoporosis than a man because of the estrogen. Estrogen is a potent anti-inflammatory. So when you don't have it, you start feeling joint pain. You get the carpal tunnel, the big one, hip bursitis. Yeah, frozen shoulder, hip bursitis, gluteal tendinopathy, the knee pain. Like once you start, like my patients are like, wow, I can get on and off the floor with my grandchildren now. I can go play with my grandkids. I like, it's or I can fix stuff like when I get men on my program and get their hormones regulated, you're like, wow, I can fix stuff under the sink and it's not a problem. Like everybody needs estrogen, everybody needs testosterone, but when your ovaries shut down, your adrenal glands are the main producer. They produce DHEA that converts to testosterone and then to estrogen. So when a woman's had a real stressed out life, going through divorce, taking care of a sick parent,
Life.
yeah. When life is lifing and your adrenal glands might be tapped out, you may not have that reserve. I always focus on the cortisol too, which is why I have a lot of ashwagandha in there. And I tell people take it after dinner. So by 9 o'clock, your melatonin is cranking and you're about to sleep like a baby.
I love that. And we are now heading into the panel part of our program. We have about 15 or 20 minutes. And first of all, I wanted you guys, if you could, to unmic and maybe even take the camera off if you want to be seen. But I would love to know if you have any questions. One of our other presenters is back. Dr. Beverly is back. Corinne is back as well. Dr. Naima is one of the presenters that's going to be on a little bit later on. But if you do have any questions, please, this is the time to ask. And also, I just wanted to get an idea from you all, if you could come off mic. What did you think of the first day? Did you have any key learnings at all? Were your intentions met?
I'm sure. I want to give like a shout out to Beverly Kyer because I see women with autoimmune issues and it's all this stuff that's been pent up inside. So like I tell my women, be like Jesus and flip those tables.
Oh, I like that. Can I plagiarize that?
Yeah, you go, girl.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Corinne, is there anything that you would like to say?
Oh, that I love that we're all on the same page. I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people are talking about like the same things in terms of how to heal and how to move past how to thrive during this time of our lives and the importance of
Yeah, that's why I selected you. And the reality is, like I said, I want women to know they have choices, but I want their choices to be healthy choices, choices that I can stand behind, understand, and know about. Because in the 19 years I've been doing this, I've run across some pretty interesting things. Okay, no, I'm not going to recommend that one. But we have some great lineups for tomorrow. Let's see. Okay, I thought I understood menopause, and turns out there is so much more than we know. I learned a bunch today. That was from Dr. Naima, who is a chiropractor who's trained in a lot of these modalities. She's doing something else now. And I think you're coming on tomorrow, right, Dr. Naima? I think so. I think she's coming on tomorrow. Yes. Oh, she's coming on Wednesday. Okay, that's tomorrow. Today's Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Today's Wednesday.
You're coming on. Oh, good. I'm glad. And Nurse Blue is here. Lord, I meant Friday. Okay.
She meant to say
You know what?
Friday.
I was getting ready to believe you
That's
because
all right.
yeah, for this past weekend, I was thinking that it was Tuesday, and all this time on the 21st, I was thinking it was Tuesday. And when I learned I had a whole extra day, I was like, oh my God, I felt like I was going on vacation. But when you were talking about adrenals and the stress thing, this is what a lot of women don't know. And I know this because I was one of those women. And very rarely do doctors talk about this because, first of all, you guys, drained adrenals is not even in the diagnostic code. If Dr. Lakeisha would talk to you, if she was here, this is one of her main pet peeves. It's not even the diagnostic code. So it's not something that people talk to you about necessarily. Okay, just like chronic fatigue is not in the diagnostic code, but it's a real thing. A lot of us have drained adrenals. So all the more reason why when the estrogen is gone and we start having these symptoms, they're exacerbated. I cannot tell you how important it is that you do not ignore these symptoms. They might be a little inconvenient and uncomfortable, but they add up later on to something else that's
Yes.
much more serious. And it
Disease,
presents in your late 60s and 70s.
Alzheimer's.
Yes, direct correlation between lack of estrogen and Alzheimer's, lack of estrogen and cardiac disease, lack of estrogen, and what's the other one? Osteoporosis. Yeah, one of the things that Dr. Sarah told me when we were talking that's so sad to me is that a lot of women who are walking around with hunchbacks or who have died because of severe pelvic fractures or UTIs could have been prevented had we not the right information about estrogen and how to do it. And Dr. Lakeisha did a great job of explaining, I don't know if you were here for that, Dr. Sora, explaining why it was black boxed in the beginning. She started out by apologizing as a gynecologist because they didn't have access to, nor were they sharing the correct information to help women. And so there's been generations of women since the early 60s, since they started talking about this, that never have the full benefit of HRT. And to me, HRT, you have HRT, like what the traditional doctor was talking about. She's an integrative doctor, so it's a little bit better than someone who's traditionally trained because she approaches things from a holistic scope. And then also from the bioidenticals, and then what Dr. Sarah has created, which also can work. So you do have choices. Dr. Sarah, do you have a recommendation in terms of what's too late for people to be taking your medication in terms of age?
That was my
No,
question.
no.
Yeah.
You can start. I start people in their 70s.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
part of my question. It's not so much as a question as you're giving me one heck of a revelation of you are too, Corinna, is that I had total hysterectomy, Sapengo in 93, and I had hot flashes for 2 months and they were gone forever. So I was under the illusion is okay, yet there's several things. I had 3 episodes of heart failure, and I think that contributes to a contributor from that situation too. But
sure.
I'm glad to hear that it's not too late to do something, but I really need to know what is the right balance for me at 77.
And you also need to review, if you said heart failure on cardiac medications, that needs to be
Yeah,
reviewed. Yeah.
a ton of
Ye-
them.
Yeah, you can't take my product in because there's ginseng and that can interact with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
then are there some alternative like foods or something to help and?
There's
Somebody
estrogenic foods.
suggested a patch, but I was something about what they
Oh,
didn't.
estrogen
say.
patch.
I
Yeah.
thought they had-
I would think what I would do if I were you and you're concerned about these things, I would make a consult appointment with Dr. Sarah or Dr. Lakeisha, either one or both, because they're both offering some free sessions to find out more about what might work with your medications, because that is something that I'm sure Dr. Sarah can stand behind this. I know
Yeah,
Dr.
I'll
Lakeisha will.
say go with Dr. Lakeisha to do a patch because you already are on all these other medications. I can tell you that my product is really strong and there's a couple herbs that will interact with heart medication. And my package says consult with the doctor before use because it's not to be combined with other major medications.
I got you.
Yeah.
Hey,
for
Lisa.
sure.
That's my sister, Lisa.
Thanks.
So one of the things, there's a lot of things that I really appreciated by this is Corinne said, we are all on the same page. I've been here for a few minutes on this planet and it's just interesting to watch. And I worked alongside doctors for skating me in years. And how much information is withheld from us. It was watched mortality rates for Black and brown women. I began to call it medical apartheid in America.
Pretty much.
But to learn this information, as much as I've been around it, some of these things that both of you said, I never heard. And Corinna, those kinds of aromatherapies and meditations and this, that, and the other, and massages, I've talked to people about it, but you just added to my repertoire, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, in fact, tomorrow we have even more fabulous information that's going to be shared with us. Dr. Medea, who is also a Chinese medicine doctor and a organic soul food chef, which just really fascinates me. I've eaten her food before and it's fabulous. She'll be with us tomorrow. And also tomorrow we will have Dr. Melanie, who's going to be talking about managing loneliness. This is really a huge issue for midlife women. It doesn't just necessarily start when you're in your 70s. It's like way before that. We're going to have her here as well. And also speaking tomorrow is Sheila Hawkins, who's going to be talking about productivity and motivation during this time of life, which is another issue. We want to be productive. We want to be able to focus, but sometimes our brains just won't let us. Our hormones just won't let us. But that doesn't mean that we have to capitulate to that. There are things that we can do. Hello, Sean. Good to see you here as well. One of our other sponsors. Thank you so much for being here. Tomorrow we'll talk more about ASEA. And we're also going to be talking about the Soul Health Club too, which is another one of our sponsors from Nurse Blue. Nurse Blue is coming on Friday and she's going to be talking about music and longevity blueprint for healing frequencies. That's going to be really interesting. Dr. Naima is going to be talking about spiritual self-care practices on Friday. So we have some great things coming on for tomorrow. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the summit. I am so grateful and I thank you.